Hi all, welcome to K21 Talk Show. We're going to be catching up with a true legend of Mumbai cricket today. Five-time winner of the Ranji Trophy. He represented four IPL teams. He played for India also, and he's one of the best upcoming coaches in the country. None other than Abhishek Nayar.
Hi Abhishek, how are you?
Good, buddy. How are you? What's happening?
All good, all good. How is the last couple of months been?
It's been good. It's actually not been too bad. Thought it would be really bad, but it's been all right. Been training. Try to be home. Now that the lockdown has slightly eased off in Mumbai, you can go for runs outside and stuff. So it's better. I mean, could be better, but I won't complain.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're probably living in two of the most affected cities in India. So Chennai is by no means easy to live right now. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know. I spoke to DK recently, and he was telling me it's bad as well. So hopefully, everywhere things get sorted out and things get normal.
Yeah, and we'll see an IPL soon. Yeah, let's get started, Abhishek. I'm gonna start with a very, very silly question. Okay. Your name is your name is Abhishek Nayar. I'm sure you've read somewhere that your parents migrated from Kerala to Bombay. Do you know Malayalam? Do you speak Malayalam?
So I understand Malayalam really well, but I can't speak because I had a choice when I was trying to learn Malayalam with either Malayalam or Marathi. That is a choice I had to make because both languages I used to keep getting mixed up in both. So when I was trying to learn Malayalam, I used to mess up my Marathi. So I was like, since I'm going to stay in Mumbai for the rest of my life, I'll just learn Marathi. So I understand that my parents speak to me in Malayalam, but I reciprocate in English. But I know Marathi, so I learn Marathi and not Marathi. So
You go back. You go back to Kerala once in a while, or you don't?
No, to be honest, not very often. My mom's actually from Hyderabad. My dad's from Kerala. We do have family in Kerala, but I've been there only thrice so far. Once to meet family and then twice for cricket. So I recently went last year when we were scouting for the Sad Mustaq Ali. So a couple of us, David Hussey, Kyle Mills, our CEO Venki Mysore, DK, all of us. DK was playing in Kerala, so that's when I visited Kerala last.
Absolutely. So we'll get started with serious questions. so you're part of a Shivaji Park Gymkhana alumni. Some of the best cricketers in the country have come from there, starting from Vijay Manjrekar, Ajit Wadekar, Sandeep Patil, Cyrus Batul, and then your contemporaries, Ajit Agarkar, Ramesh Pawar. So first of all, what feeling did you have as a kid when you got into that club, and then how much did it shape your career?
Well, I think if I have to be honest, not a lot. I don't think I grew up thinking I'm from Shivaji Park, so I'm special or I'm going to become a special cricketer. I think the only blessing in disguise was, the fact that I got to rub shoulders with a lot of good cricketers because the school I was in when I changed from Scottish to Shadasham, I got to play with a lot of good cricketers, and because it has a history of having top cricketers, it just made things easy for me. But Shivaji taught me different things. I don't think I grew up thinking I want to be Ajit Agarkar, or I never thought of it like that. But I always thought of being able to walk into that Mumbai dressing room and playing for that team. I think if there was something, that is what drove me. The other things were always motivational factors, but not so much for me. I think for a lot of other people, but for me it was more about me as an individual trying to achieve something for me.
Absolutely. So going to your debut, you seem to have one strange love affair with Tamil Nadu. We'll come to that later. You made your debut against Tamil Nadu. If I'm not wrong, Badri was one of your first wickets.
He was, and as ironic as it may sound, but he was not out. He wasn't really out. I remember we appealed for a pot behind, and he missed the bat by this much. So the umpire was very kind to me, and I got Badri out. Good wicket because at that point he was in good form and stuff like that, and he was obviously a big name in Indian cricket even at that point. So was a good wicket, but was a fake one.
That's okay. First wicket, benefit of first wicket. That's okay. And you had a couple of zeros after that, and then a couple of ducks after that, and then you almost had to wait till the next season to play your next match. So I'm sure the Mumbai team at that point of time was very hard to get in, and then how did you sort of react to the setback that you had right at the beginning of the career, or did you see it as did you see it as a setback, or like how did you react to it?
I think when I look back at it, it's one of my biggest learnings of life. That that phase of my life. But in terms of a setback, I don't really think it was it was a setback. But I think for me, it helped me grow a lot as a cricketer because I had to remodel my game. I had to think. I always felt coming to a first class career. I've spoken about this before. When I first entered that Mumbai dressing room, I changed a lot about my game. I had this white stance. I looked awkward, but just to fit in, I changed a lot of what I did naturally at that point, just to fit in and look a little classy like a Wasim Jafar or Amol Muzumdar. But what it did was it hampered my game. So when I went back, it gave me a lot of time to think about my game, think about who I am as an individual. So when I came back, I wasn't really there to impress anyone. I was there to stake a claim and do something for my own career. So I think that's how it kind of changed the way I thought about myself, because I felt if I did well then, for a long time I would have tried to impress people and play for the wrong reasons. It just gave me more clarity going forward in my career.
Absolutely. You came back and then you came back quite strongly. There were no hundreds, but then you had 97 and then 86 and then 88, and then you eventually went on to win the Ranji Trophy that year. So that was first of many.
Yeah, so I think that was really interesting because we started Mumbai as a team. They started that season with when they lost 3 back-to-back games. So they were looking at relegation at that point, and I was having a very good domestic season. I mean, a local club season. So I remember Praveen Amre at that point had to stick his neck out for me and had to literally push the selectors to get me into the team. And when I got into the team, I remember very clearly, me and a friend of mine, we both got into the side. And I told him that, I don't know where Mumbai is today, but I'm going to make sure Mumbai wins this championship thereon. And what I realized was Mumbai was struggling around the 200, 250. There were no partnerships after that. So when I went back, I wanted to make an impact. If you look at all those runs, I've got them in lesser number of balls. So I played a different brand of cricket. I wanted to go attack. I wanted to play my style of cricket. And I think for me, from that point to then go on and win a Ranji Trophy was very special.
Yeah, that as I said, that was first of many. So, do you remember where you scored your maiden first class 100?
Of course, I won't forget that. I don't know if it's lucky, but luckily for me, it was in Pakistan. I mean, we played this
Mohammad Nisar Trophy.
Yeah, Mohammad Nisar. So, champions of India versus champions of Pakistan. We were playing Karachi, and we had traveled there, and that was my first 100. So, for me, it was very, very special. Special because not only because it was my first 100, but it was because it was against a team from Pakistan. You know how that rivalry is and stuff like that. So the build up to that was great. The build up to that match was quite big because we went there and it was more about. I think the previous year they came to India and we beat them. So there were lots of talk about they come on our turf and we are going to beat them and stuff like that. So it was a special 100. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Actually, it was our first 100 for 3 people. It was for me. I think someone mentioned that. And Sar Kukreja and Ajinkya Rane. I think it was first 100 for all 3 of us and Prashant Naik, 4 of us.
Yeah. So I'm sure not many Indians can at least claim to have scored their maiden 100 in Pakistan.
So records that good and in that context.
So, moving on, Abhishek, a year later, you are playing in front of absolute packed crowds in Wankhede for Mumbai Indians. In fact, you were one of the, if I'm not wrong, one of the 4 or 5 players in that Mumbai setup to play all 14 games. You had a pretty good season, and you almost had a strike rate of, I think, 150, if I'm not wrong. So you weren't a player in front of such crowds till that point of time. IPL is still big, but back in 2008, it was like people from all over the world were tuning in. How special? Like how was the feeling to be part of something that big?
If I can say it, I was literally shitting in my pants the night before. It was. Though I was very excited, but those butterflies you normally feel when you enter the ground. I had those butterflies from a night before. Like even sleep, I was like, damn, how's it going to be? What's it going to be like? Sachin being there and Sachin Paji being there, Sanat Jayasuriya shot for like, damn, what's it going to be like? I remember going to one of my favorite restaurants to eat because it was lucky for me at that point. And I was thinking, damn, I just hope that I don't make a fool of myself on the big stage when I finally got a opportunity and stuff. So it was nerve wracking to say the least, but there was a lot of excitement for me. I mean, going there, I wanted to make sure that though my thought process was like not make a fool of myself, but the excitement of just being there and experiencing a packed Wankhede was great for me.
And your India debut followed soon as well. You made a debut for India the next year against West Indies. You played the Champions Trophy as well. But oddly, I don't think you need reminding, but you batted in one match and then you bowled, if I'm not wrong, 3 overs or something. I mean, it sounds puzzling, right? Like you never got a fair chance and then you probably never got a look in after that as well.
Well, like I said, there are funny things that have happened in my career, but I mean, that's one way to look at it. I mean, I look at it in a way that I was very lucky to have an opportunity to represent India, even if that be 3 games. I didn't get an opportunity. Yes, I mean, I can be a bit grumpy about it, but I'm very happy as to where I am in my career or how my career panned out. I guess I'm a firm believer of things are meant to be, they will be. So for me, I've no real regrets. There were times when I got really close to getting back into the team. It didn't happen for whatever reasons. But, in a country like India, there's so many cricketers who've done a lot more than what I have or achieved a lot more than what I have in terms of performance for their state and stuff like that. And they haven't got that maiden cap. So, there are 2 ways. I can either be grateful for it or either crib about it. I'm grateful. So I'm very happy that I got that opportunity.
Absolutely. Then again, don't think I'm stressing on that point or something, but from a fan point of view or from an outsider point of view, back then, that was the time when India were actually looking for a seam bowling all-rounder. Now they have Hardik Pandya and maybe Vijay Shankar or a couple of other players. So back then, India would have loved to have had a seam bowling all-rounder. So you're... No.
Well, I think it was strange because it wasn't strange, but it was because like Vijay Shankar, I was more I bowled around the Vijay Shankar pace, and Hardik Pandya, because he clocks 135 and 135 plus, he has that ability. We were more around the 124, 125, and I think what India was looking at that point was for someone who can bowl like Irfan at his peak or like Hardik now. I think that was more the outlook, and though we were guys who were very capable with the bat, I think what they actually required was someone who was very capable with the ball and can chip in with the bat. So I think that's where I kind of missed out. At that point, I didn't bowl a lot for Mumbai as well because I was used very differently. So, like I said, which is why I felt I missed out. And I remember Dhoni giving a statement as well at that point. Like, I don't know whether Abhishek's a bowler or a batsman. So it was, I think it was that feeling and that notion, and which is what happens in any team. They didn't think, that I had the skill set that was required at that point for the Indian team, which is why they didn't pick me. So it was quite clear for me to understand why that happened.
Yeah, international success probably might have evaded you, but domestically, like I said, 5 Ranji Trophy titles, and you had a crucial role to play in each one of them. And you stood up in big moments as well. So I remember your 99 in 2008-9, plus that Mysore, probably one of the best Ranji finals ever played. In Mysore, you had a 95-run partnership with Dhawan. Plus 2012-13 was an absolute blinder of a season where you scored almost 1,000 runs. I mean, any favorites everything?
Every season is special for me. Like you said, I feel that, I've been lucky that every season that Mumbai has won, I've contributed, well in the team's context. And I think for me, the 2 that stand out, one is the first year when I got back into the team and we were looking at relegation from there, coming and winning 5 games, all outright. And I had major contributions in that. But for me, it was a big moment because it was my first Ranji Trophy. I think that was very special for me. Following that, I remember the next year it was relatively easier, I felt, when we played the next Ranji Trophy. We just felt like, we are destined to win and we won it. So I think the last Ranji Trophy that I won, I think that for me was quite special because in every other one, Sachin Paji played. So either Sachin Paji or Zach or Ajit, we had a lot of senior players. I felt the last one that we won was special because we had a very young side. I
The
remember
next gen team, yeah.
yeah, Aditya Tare was playing. Shreyas was playing his second season, if I'm not mistaken, and he played a huge role, scoring around 1,300 runs that season. Siddesh Lar had a very good season. We had Balwinder Singh Sandhu, a lot of guys who were young, who didn't have that kind of experience. Together collectively with a lot of teamwork, with a lot of thought process and planning, we managed to achieve that milestone. So I think that was very special for me because there were no seniors in the team as such, and we as a young team could lift that championship, which is a big achievement.
But Abhishek, I said, like, I've been following Mumbai cricket for a very long time. My personal favorite is 2009-10. I think I was there in 8 out of Mumbai's 10 matches that year. One, I missed Mumbai Punjab and the semi-final where you came back and scored 100. I think you had missed a couple of matches before that. You came back and scored 100. So, Ranji Trophy final, yes, sorry to talk about your dismissal, but it has to be spoken about. Like, in a 5-day match, Sunil Joshi was bowling to you with a long on. And if I'm not wrong, there were 2 other fielders on the outfield. You still tried to hit him over long on, and then you probably had the best view on the ground of that Manish Pandey catch. Like, what was your reaction when he took that catch?
It was crazy because I remember when I came into bat, we were in a tough situation. We were like 12 for 3 or 4.
Yeah, 4 down for 30 odd. Yeah.
So I remember Dhawal was sent in as a pinch hitter or whatever, and we had a good partnership. I was batting on 55. And normally at that point, if a left-arm spinner bowled, more often than not, I took them on, which is why they already had someone at long on. So I remember playing that shot, and I look at Manish, and Manish lost his footing. So he lost his balance, and it was more like he put both his palms down, and then just picked up from there. And I think there were 5 or 6 steps that he took, and my reaction, I literally, after he took the catch and came running, I didn't believe it first. So when he came, I asked him, I said, Pandey, liya kya catch tune? So he's like, हाँ भाई लिया मैंने. I said, सच बता catch लिया कि नहीं? He said, हाँ भाई लिया. So I walked off. Then I walked off. I was like, dude, if he's saying he's picked it and we're good friends and all, so I said, okay, fair enough. And I walked, but it was an unreal catch, unbelievable catch. Just to, I mean, like I said, you're part of something special. You're part of something special, even though I was batting, but it was an outstanding catch. I don't think I've seen anything like that live after that.
Yeah, like that match had it all. Like Manish Pandey, if you remember 4th innings, he almost, like Mumbai won the game by 6 runs. He played a blinder of an innings till Iqbal caught him out, and he scored 130 odd something. So, and I still remember the last. You remember the last wicket, Srinath Arvind? Yeah, Ajit Agarkar actually started smiling before he took the catch.
That's crazy. There was a lot of talking before the game. I remember Robs at that point was slightly vocal and excited about the final, so he gave a few statements saying that we'll fight fire with fire and stuff like that. So there was a lot of talking before the tournament, before the game. So there was a lot of sledging. There were a lot of in good spirit, but. The crowd got in. I mean, you were there, so the crowd was crazy because they were throwing bottles at us and they were going crazy. So it was for us sitting there. We were like, "Damn, we have to win." Warna crowd to pagal kar dega. And it'll be for us. I felt if we lost that, it would be a huge dagger to our heart because for a very long time, it would be like one of those beats that really hurt. So I'm just grateful we managed to win that game.
Yeah. So Abhishek, a little while back you had mentioned about your white stance and all that. So back then, like I've been wanting to ask you this question for a very long time. In fact I was close to asking you when we were in the commentary box sometime last year. But actually the 2009-10 final. So you remember how those dressing rooms in Mysore were, like where you had to climb down? You were climbing down and then I met you. I actually wanted to ask you about that question. I don't know if you remember, but then I decided it was not the best time to ask about stance a day before the final. So what is it with, So what is it with your white, like you stand very wide and you crouch a lot. I'm guessing the crouching is an after effect of a white stance, but it's certainly not from the textbook. Like where did you get that stance from?
I don't know, man, to be honest. I remember starting it when I was in school. I watched Clayton Lambert bat once, Shivnarth Chanderpal, Amir Sohail. So I always liked these weird looking batsmen, and I felt a good way to distract the bowlers and and look slightly awkward because there were a lot of things that actually changed in my batting. I used to stand deep in my crease at that point because I was never a very good back foot player. So what I started to realize was when you're wider stance and the wider you are, the base is better, but the movement is restricted, right? So what I started to learn in my game was, if I stand deeper, if my stance are wide, all I need to do is transfer my weight to play a back foot punch or to pull, which made it slightly easier for me. It made it easier for me to play a shorter ball because for me everything would actually go above me. So a short ball never really worried me. So I mean, from those things, it came very naturally. It's not something I tried to focus on and stuff. As I started getting older, it started to change because my back started to hurt. But I had to train really hard to be able to play long innings with those stunts because damn, your glutes hurt at the end of an inning. So it was awkward, it was weird, but it came very naturally to me. And I mean, I'm it's slightly technical here, but that was my stance. But at the point of release, I used to be a lot more upright. So now that I coach, I've understood that no matter how I stood, but at the point of release, I was in a much better position than a lot of people who actually had great stance, which is the key in batting. I can stand looking at the wicket keeper for all I care, and then at the point of release, if I'm at the right position, that's all that mattered. Which is why I managed to get a lot of runs in tough conditions because I felt at point of release I was in very good position nevertheless.
Yeah, absolutely. So the next thing, so I know, like you said that maybe the wide stance was distracting the bowlers or something. I'm sure you used something else also. Your teammates know it, your opponents 100% know it, but I don't know how many of your fans know it. You used to keep continuously talking to yourself while batting. Like even when the bowler is about to release the ball, you used to keep mumbling to something. Like what secrets are you telling yourself out there?
No secrets. I'm saying don't. I mean, I used to keep saying different things for different games, depending on how motivated I was. And like me, I used to pick up quotes from the paper, from if I watched a movie, if I've read something somewhere, and I would try to use that as a source of energy and a source of positivity through my innings. So a lot of times, if I lost concentration, if I felt I was, going, not in the present as much, I should try and say those things to bring myself back into the present. So, I use different things. There's not one thing that I used throughout my career, but there were times when I felt if I was afraid, for instance, while batting. So it helped me just talking to myself and just reiterating the fact that, you're still here and what's the worst that can happen. So there are different things I said at different times. I remember watching a movie called The Peaceful Warrior. I don't know if you watched it or read the book. But when I played a game against Delhi, the semi-finals the same year, we won at Mysore. And I was coming from an injury, so I hadn't played for almost a month. So when I came back, that whole innings, I kept telling myself through that innings before the ball was played that I'm the peaceful warrior. Now, as stupid as it sounds, it helped me get a 140 odd, so 150 odd. So through that, it helped me through that that whole innings.
Very, very interesting. But did your opponents misunderstand it at some point, like thinking that you're actually abusing them or like mouthing something bad at them?
I can tell you one thing for sure. A lot of my opponents hate me or have hated me at some point till they've actually gotten to know me. So, it's interesting because UV Paji once when we were playing for Pune Warriors together. So we were in the Indian team for the brief period that I was there, and also I remember sitting with him and we were talking and he's telling me, यार तुझे ना पहले मैं जब देखता था ना या खेलते हुए देखता था मुझे लगता था साले में तेरे में बहुत एटीट्यूड है, बहुत बड़ा खिलाड़ी समझता है खुद को, लेकिन तुझे जानने के बाद लगता है तू अच्छा बंदा है. So a lot of people actually, when I played, thought I was slightly weird, stupid, or whatever. But as they've gotten to know me, they've seen that there's a saner side, there's a slightly smarter side, and it works out all right.
Absolutely. So the 5 Ranji trophies that you won. So you must have played with a lot of absolutely wonderful players, starting with Wasim, Rohit, Rahane, and a lot of other players. So I think you were on 99 first-class matches when you played your last match for Bombay, and then like you had a below par 2017-18 season, and then you almost had to wait one more year to play your 100th match. I'm sure you're not the man to take milestones very seriously, but the question is, how hard was it leaving Bombay? Did it take an emotional toll on you?
The 3 days after getting dropped was terrible for me. After that, I was fine. It took me, I think, 3 or 4 days to get over the fact. I think there were a couple of things that helped me get over it. One was I kept, Ajit called me when they dropped me and they didn't pick me, and he spoke to me and he told me that this is what we're doing. So at that point, I was pretty pissed off. I was like why is he doing that? And it shouldn't happen. Why is it happening to me? And after knowing me, he's led me, and he knows the kind of guy I am and stuff. But then I just thought about the fact that it's a different. They tried to go a different way. The person that they replaced me with was someone that I was helping a lot through the season, so I was very happy for him. And believe it or not, Shivam Dubey came into the squad at that point. And Shivam Dubey was someone I kept telling Ajit about through the season. That when you'll replace me and decide to replace me, you'll shoot with Shivam, and there's another all-rounder called Akash Parkar. So these two should be the ideal replacements for me, who can come and do what I did for Mumbai. So I was disappointed for a couple of days, but then Star Sports happened. In almost a week or 10 days, Star Sports called me and said, "Do you want to do some commentary?" So I started doing some commentary, and for me it just taught me something completely different, and it changed my outlook towards cricket in a very good way, I feel. And then KKR happened. So by the time that year ended, I was like, dude, I mean, drop ho gaya, but the benefits of that is a lot of good things that happened in my life. And then I was okay with it. I mean, I was disappointed for a while, but in the end, I just felt, like I told you before, what's meant to be will be. There's no point breaking ahead or holding things against each other. I was very happy about the fact that at least Ajit picked up the phone, spoke to me, rather than just dropping me and then saying whatever, he's just another player. There was that much admiration and respect. I was happy about that.
Absolutely. So the thing is, like you had mentioned about how KKR almost instantly happened after after you were dropped or something. So like going by that, I think if I wouldn't be wrong in saying that you had started thinking about coaching very early in your career.
I actually hadn't. People think I had, but my intention was more to help than to coach. I still my outlook towards it is still to help, not to coach. I think coaching is not the kind of word I like to use a lot. I like to use when I work with someone, I like to help them in whatever they're doing. And that's always been my outlook. It's never been I'm going to become a coach in 5 years, so let me start today. That was never my outlook, because that's a very fake. It's not the way I would approach something in life. So for me, it was more about if I saw someone and someone needed help and I felt I could help him, I would go out. I would go and help him. If I couldn't, I wouldn't. But my outlook through was, if I can help someone, why not? It doesn't matter where I am in my career, but if I have the quality to help someone, or I can add some value to someone's life, why not? And that has always been my outlook through and through.
Yeah, I've had the privilege to hear about some of your coaching methods. I know Srikanth quite well, and Mr. KKR. So we have heard quite about it. So one thing he tells me is how you actually work really, really hard in making the player convinced to believe about himself. Your sole intention is to make the player believe about himself. It could work with experienced players, like how in 2018 Rohit had actually come out and said that how you actually helped him get back to fitness back in 2011 when he was in and out of the team, or Dinesh Karthik for that matter, how he said you sort of helped him turn around his career. Yeah. This might work with experienced players, but we know that you're heading the KKR Academy. How difficult is it when you try to do the same thing with youngsters?
Well, the point is not for me to do anything. The point is just to make them realize what they need to do to achieve what they want to achieve in life. I think it's very simple. I think every cricketer, every individual, every human being, not necessarily a cricketer, they want to achieve something in life, right? A lot of people want to achieve something, but they don't know the process to get there, or they don't know the roadmap to get there. I think what I try and do is just to show them that if they can envision what I'm envisioning for them, then I think my job is done, right? Then it's just for them to realize that. So for me, it's never been about, on the contrary, an experienced player is harder to work with than an inexperienced player. Because an inexperienced player will always look at you and want to learn. An experienced player will always look at you and ask the question, what value can you add to me that I don't already have? So there is a huge difference. It takes a lot more time convincing someone who's achieved something in life rather than someone who's achieved something lesser, because he will give in to what you have to say and believe you. So I think it works the other way around. But I have a simple formula. I think I like to be very honest with who I work. I like to understand his perspective. I like to understand his goals, his visions, and I try and make sure that whatever process we set on to and whatever we try and do, I'm as transparent. I don't like to bullshit people about what they can do, what they can't do in their career. I like to be very upfront and forthright, and then I try to put them on processes where I feel they can achieve their potential, or get, like I always keep telling people, work towards excellence. I try and put that path in front of them, and it works for a lot of people. It doesn't work for a lot of people, but I always tell people that you shouldn't do something because you want to get a result. You should want to do something because you want to become a better individual. You want to be a more rounded person. You want to be a more happy person. Because in the end, cricket will stay with you for a while. But if you're not happy as an individual, and if you're not happy in your own skin tone, then it can be a very unhappy place to be, even though you're achieving great things in life. So I try to get people to that place, and if that happens, well and good. I do my best to get them there.
Abhishek, the things that you mentioned are connected to one other topic as well, which of late people have started coming and telling, but barely any of the players spoke about it in the previous era. The stress part of it, the depression part of it. Someone like a Will Pukowski, the Victoria batsman, who's 20 first-class matches old. He's taken 2 breaks citing mental health issues. Maxwell, an established international player like Maxwell, came out last year and then wanted to go on an indefinite break. Players have started coming out now. In one way, it's good, but in one way, it's also bad. If someone were to come to you with this problem, I'm not saying you have a ready-made solution or something, but how would you go about helping them?
Well, for me, everything depends completely on the individual I'm working with, because every individual, like you and me, we're different. Everyone has a different thought process. I think the first thing is to analyze what is causing the person to feel that way. I think pressure is a word that is thrown a lot, but there are lots of aspects, a lot of things that happen in life that causes you to feel that pressure, right? Pressure it could be monetary, it could be him wanting to achieve a goal and not being able to achieve it. It can be family, it can be relationships, it can be wanting to prove something to someone. There can be a lot of things. So for me, the first and most important thing would be to identify what part of the pressure is sticking that depression or causing that person to feel the way he feels. Once I've done that, then I'll try and, for me, everything revolves around processes. I would try and, first understand that through good conversations, through him venting out what he feels. Once I've done that, I'll try and figure out a process in which I feel he can, in time, get to a place where he's happy as an individual, which is what I talked about. Because a lot of times when we set processes based on result, it can be a place where you're very unhappy. Because you may practice all day, you may do things, but the another day you may not be very happy. And that is what causes someone to be depressed. That is what causes someone to be sad. So a lot of times it's just about that, is making that person realize that there's more to life than cricket, than scoring hundreds, than scoring fifers. There's a lot more. So it's just identifying. Once you've identified it, create a process. And while you created a process, understand and see whether or not that process is actually making a difference to that person's mindset or not. So it takes some time, these things, but it's more about good conversations. It's more about spending a lot of time. It's about understanding him and not trying to put my thoughts and my beliefs into him. It's about understanding what his belief and his thought process is, and then streamlining it in a way in which he can achieve what he wants to achieve in life, which is happiness or success.
Very, very, very interesting points there, Abhishek. The thing is, for example, football, the soccer as a sport is big on these things, and then they carry a motivational coach or something. Or especially AFL, Australian football, is big on ensuring that the players remain in their best peak of their mental health. Are IPL franchisees or are the local associations doing something about it, or do you think they should do something about it?
Well, I think it's not so much about the association. I think this is See, in India, the culture has been growing up. If you ever talk about, if say for instance, I took a break, the immediate thing would be, ये फट्टू है, ये डरता है. So the outlook of people towards cricket towards sportsmen is very different here compared to abroad. So it takes a lot of time to actually get into a person's space, a cricketer's space, so that he can trust you completely and actually tell you what he feels, right? So for someone to vent out his frustration and to vent out his inner feelings, you need to build that trust. So if you can have a person with you, but if I don't trust you well enough to tell you what I actually feel, and I end up telling you what you want to hear, it's completely different. If I talk to someone and I'm trying to understand what he's going through and he's coming and telling me exactly what I want to hear of him, I can never help him, right?
Correct.
I need to be able to hear exactly what he feels is when I can actually help him. So I feel it's more the individual being honest enough to ask for help, the individual being honest enough to give in to the individual he's asked help from. Once that happens, you can help anyone and everyone. But an association doing it, yes, it's great if they can. But for me, I think it's more about that relationship. That can only happen when it's a two-way road. It's not something. It can't happen just one way. It's for me to gain your trust and for you to trust me. So only when that happens is when that relationship is built, and then things can get sorted.
Absolutely. Like one of our fans is pointing out, so Dinesh Karthik had, actually credits you a lot for his turnaround. Can you throw some light on it, saying, how did you, well, you know him for a long time, you know him from your under 16 days, you played against him a lot. Can you throw some light on it? Can you throw some light on what you guys worked on?
For the past 4-5 years, I'm actually tired of throwing light. I don't have anything different to say. If people have heard me before, they're like, "Arey yaar, same thing he's saying again and again." But I think it was great. I mean, Dinesh being very kind. Firstly, I mean, I think a lot of credit goes to the cricketer. Like I said, he trusted me to help him. He trusted me enough to give in. I think that is his biggest quality. He was ready to make slight adjustments in his mannerisms, in his nature, in the way he approached life altogether, in the way he approached the game altogether, and that is his greatness. That is that for that I credit him more than me. I think a lot of cricketers don't do that, and he actually gave in a lot, which helped me a lot. I think for me, I did very simple things. Like I said, I did the same things I spoke about before. I understood his thought process. I tried to create a roadmap for him. I tried to be consistent in it, because for him, he was always someone, once he achieved something, he wanted to change. He wanted to do something different. So for me, for the past 5 years, the greatest achievement has been to make Dinesh Karthik do the same thing again and again and again and again. And as boring as it is for him, he's done it again and again and again, which is why he's been able to be as consistent as he has been in the past 4-5 years, whether that be domestically or IPL. He has been able to be consistent. So I think the process is the same. To go into detail, I can't talk about his mindset and what he was going through, because that's quite personal between both of us. But for me, it was more about making sure that he can do the boring things a lot more regularly, because that was his formula to success. For him, he achieved success, but the moment he achieved it a lot of time in his career, he let go and tried to do something different. And that is when he got confused and he lost his place. Then he tried to go back to that formula. It didn't work for him. So I think what we've managed to do is maintain a good relationship between both of us and that understanding.
Absolutely. Very, I think there are some whoever is watching it, there are actually some very interesting points here on your outlook towards coaching, and then how the belief has to come from within rather than at the end of the day, the coach can only tell you certain number of things, but the ultimate belief has to come from within. Absolutely wonderful points, Abhishek. Lovely. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for giving us your time. I'm just browsing through some of the questions your fans have posted. So,
a lot of my good friends are posting.
Unmukh Chand is apparently commenting left, right, and center. So Yeah, there are a lot of Tamil Nadu fans who are saying like you ultimately pissed them off whenever you played them. You made your you made your highest some T20 score against them and whatnot. I think for highest T20 score, your highest IPL score is against CSK.
Yeah. I think I've had
Yeah.
some good. I've always looked at the certain teams that I've always liked to do well against. And I've always enjoyed that challenge. Tamil Nadu being one, Karnataka being another one. And these two teams for me, Delhi was another side when I was playing was a very tough side to play against. So there were certain sides that I always looked at and said, these are the best teams, and I want to score against these guys. Or these are the occasions that I want to play the best teams. I want to do well. So these are a couple of teams that I always looked at and said that okay, no matter what happens, I need to do well. And I've always had very good records against all these sides, whether that be Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Delhi. I've always managed to do pretty well. Gujarat now, who are playing good cricket, even them. I think there are a lot of sides a lot of these good sides have actually had very poor records against not so good sides. I've been horrible against those kind of sides, but good sides have been pretty decent against.
And some guy's Instagram handle is Shreyas is my life. So he's asking, he's asking your best, he's asking your best moments with Shreyas Iyer.
I've had too many great moments on the field or off the field that I need to understand. So we've had good times on and off the field. So for me, like I've said this before also, he's like a younger brother to me. So our relationship is great. Since I've always had a sister, so he's like a younger brother to me. And we on the field and off the field, we've shared a lot. We share a lot of time together. So there are lots and lots of moments, but they need to be specific on or off the field. But there are lots. I mean, winning trophies, those dressing room moments when he's going into bat, or times when he's done well, how we celebrated, times when he's not done well, how we've still celebrated. We've tried to enjoy life in general, and I think that's how our relationship has always been. We try to keep it very happy and positive.
Yeah. One last question, Abhishek, before you let you go. One is, what actually goes through in a pre-season camp when you work with the talented domestic cricketers in the KKR Academy?
So I think, like I said, so it depends who's coming. So we don't get everyone together. For us, it's more individualized. So if say a Shubman comes, it depends on what Shubman wants. But in general, I think what I try and do is Omkar Salvi and me, with the support of Venki sir and DK, what we try and do is we try and have these full day kind of camps. So we focus really, really hard on making sure that the player spends 6 to 8 hours on the field. So, we kind of bifurcate the whole day and make sure that we have a training session in the morning. He bats at least 4 to 5 hours a day. That is something we emphasize a lot on. If he's close to a match, then we do a lot of match simulations. We play a lot of friendly games. If he's in the off season, then we work on something specific. We try and develop certain shots. We try and make certain technical changes, like we did for a couple of players. If you're preparing for an IPL, then it's a completely different scenario. Then we do a lot of depending on where he's going to bat, what situations he may face. We try and prepare him for every contingency. What he may bat, he may open the innings, he may bat in the middle order, bat towards the death. He may bat in the 13th over, 12th over, 10th over, 5 wickets down, 4 wickets down. We try and match simulate as much as we can, so he's more prepared and aware of what he needs to do when he goes on to bat. So it's very like we don't have a set pattern of how we train. Sometimes we do very weird things. We have, when there are 4 or 5 people, we go to Zumba classes, we go to kickboxing classes, we go and do different dance classes, spinning classes. So we do a lot of different things depending on what is the requirement of that particular time. But we try and make sure we do things out of the box. We don't try and do the same monotonous things. We practice in different conditions all the time. We practice in different pitches all the time. We try and play different bowlers all the time. So I try to make sure that there's enough variety and enough difference in different things that we do, which challenge the player mentally and physically, and also keep him in a good space at the end of the day.
Lovely. Thanks, Abhishek. Thanks for giving your time. It was absolutely wonderful catching up with you. And whoever is tuned in, I think I actually learned a lot of interesting points today. So we
Thank
we are wishing you become like you're already one of the most established young coaches. I hope you have a wonderful journey ahead.
thank you so much, bud. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Talk to you soon.
yeah. Stay safe.
Bye.
Thank you.